Good evening, I'm Shane Jones, leading the news at 7. There's another commitment from government to keep a close watch over prices of goods, which it says should decline with the removal of the National Social Responsibility Levy. Leader of Government Business, Senator Jerome Walcott, gave the assurance during the debate on the NSRL repeal bill in the upper house.
Recognizing that, as I said, in terms of stock that would have been purchased prior to, over the last couple of months, they would have incurred an SRL, and it will take some time in terms of the absorption into the system. But we will be monitoring carefully to ensure that there's no price gouging. Certainly within 2 to 3 months, we expect to see a leveling off or reduction, a clear reduction in the price of several commodities within Barbados.
Meanwhile, Independent Senator Lyndall Nurse is worried about the Fair Trading Commission's ability to ensure local companies do not engage in price gouging.
I think it's going to be a massive undertaking, and it has to be sustained, it has to be comprehensive, and it has to be detailed. And so it may be necessary for us to review the resources of the Fair Trading Commission to ensure that they can deliver and that they can provide this monitoring service.
Government Senator Lynette Holder says the NSRL had nothing to do with what its name suggested. She suggests no one should oppose its repeal as the tax failed to deliver. Senator Holder believes the imposition of the NSRL affected growth in several sectors.
The data showed it was underperforming and it was contributing to an increase in prices. There's still those who, Mr. President, will support it as a good tax. Someone said an efficient tax, but it cannot be efficient. It cannot be efficient if it is, Mr. President, that it is creating such hardship.
Opposition Senator Crystal Drakes believes the NSRL has negatively impacted the island's international competitiveness. She's pointed to the 2016 Doing Business report, which noted that paying taxes was made more difficult by the NSRL, which at that time was 2% and was later increased to 10%.
Mr. President, I'd like that Barbados removes itself from looking at the ones that are beneath us, but looking towards the ones that are doing better than us and striving to become more competitive in the global market. So therefore we can see from an international perspective that the NSRL does have a constraining effect on the economy as well as our competitiveness, and I think going forward, if we are open for business, that is something that we have to seriously look at when we implement national measures.
Independent Senator Tony Moore supports the repeal of the NSRL. Moore, the General Secretary of the Barbados Workers Union, says the trade union movement, including the Barbados Secondary Teachers Union and the National Union of Public Workers, spoke out against the tax as it was unpopular and inconvenient. She says in the same vein, businesses that were quick to raise prices with the introduction of the tax should reduce them now it's being repealed. The Barbados Workers Union boss told the new administration there is much to learn from the NSRL experience.
Where we commit to spend public funds in a particular direction, spend them. If people see that monies are being used responsibly, that is, for the things that, the objectives that have been set for which they will be used, whether it's healthcare, whether it is trucks, whether it is road works, containing bus fare, making sure that jobs are not lost. However money is identified, it must be used.
Weeks after calling on Barbados to capitalize on the economic benefits of growing medicinal marijuana, Minister of Agriculture and Food Security Indar Weir says a comprehensive paper is being prepared on the benefits of medicinal plants. Government is also looking at the potential value chain to be derived. Mr. Weir says more countries are passing laws providing for the use of marijuana as a medicine.
I strongly support the strict monitoring of the drug so as to discourage any rampant misuse, as I am aware that its status is still shrouded in controversy and remains illegal in some countries. Across the region, marijuana has emerged as an issue of social and economic significance and will become a subject for discussion at the upcoming CARICOM Summit to be held in Jamaica in July 2018. I know that St. Vincent and the Grenadines has legalized marijuana, while Jamaica has decriminalized small quantities as well as made provision for research.
Minister Weir was speaking at an accountability seminar at the Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security's Graham Hall headquarters. There, he stated Barbados has benefited in several areas from ICA.
Its presence over the last 2 decades has been marked by a strong emphasis on strengthening national and regional agricultural health and food safety systems, promoting the involvement of youth in agribusiness with national certification, vocational qualification training, and certification, hosting of an annual youth farm summer program since 2012, supporting value chain development for the iconic Barbados black sheep, agritourism linkages, and more recently, introducing innovation and technology for sustainable climate-smart agriculture.
Fisherfolk in Barbados have been reeling from the most recent influx of sargassum seaweed, but they're hoping that they too will eventually benefit from new developments in its use. This from President of the Barbados National Organization of Fisherfolk, Vernell Nichols. She was speaking at a forum held as part of activities to mark Fisherfolk Week. The theme of the forum, Sargassum Seaweed, from Problem to Profit.
Persons are now using seaweed to make fertilizers. It is being harvested for export. It is being harvested for export. It is being used to make methylene, and it is being used to make mulch. It is being transformed into an energy source, and I am sure that with continued research, much more useful purpose will be found to generate alternative incomes. And for us in the fishing industry, hopefully, that we too can find an alternative livelihood and what is being done.
Meantime, a researcher at the Center for Resource Management and Environmental Studies says scientists have not yet been able to predict how long the most recent sargassum seaweed infestation will last or how severe it is likely to be. This from postdoctoral research fellow Dr. Shelley-Ann Cox. She was one of the speakers at the Fisheries Forum on Seaweed. Dr. Cox says they've started to experiment with various models in order to support some early predictions that have been made.
So that people can trust the models and then start to use the results to inform their decision making, not just persons interested in entrepreneurship, but policy makers, those people in charge of governance of countries, especially if they have to task resources to different beaches for cleanup and so on. And of course, we need more information on how fast it grows, how fast it dies, and the genetics, as Nicola was speaking about before. Some people are thinking now that there might be different species of sargassum because somehow flying fish doesn't seem to like this particular type of sargassum like it liked the last bit when it was using it to spawn.
Dr. Cox adds that they've managed to uncover more information about the seaweed.
We know climate change is a factor. We know what we're doing as humans is impacting. Of course, when we use fertilizers on the land and so on, it runs out to sea and goes into rivers. These rivers go into sea, and this is what the high nutrients that is feeding the sargassum. We're always also thinking that the Sahara dust, which provides the high iron content, also feeds sargassum because it's a plant. All right, so we have started to explore the dust that has been coming to our region to suggest if that in fact is what is also causing it to proliferate.
Last evening's deadly shooting, which claimed 31-year-old Ronaldo Foster's life, has members of the quiet community uneasy. They say the victim was new to the Beccles Road Orange Hill area, which they say has never been hit by issues of this nature before. Kareem Smith reports.
This is where 31-year-old Ronaldo Foster drew his last breath. He died after an encounter with a gunman left him running for his life, but falling short. Now all that's left is an ugly stain on an otherwise quiet community. Hours after the incident, the Beccles Road Orange Hill house he shared with his mother, daughter and grandfather was deserted. However, Marva Mears, a neighbor, says she was at home when it happened.
Yes, you know, here packs. And later, and then 2 quick ones. And then I see the car about 5 minutes after that, so that was believe it in him. All I know, it can't go home me, that it is that true.
She says Mr. Foster moved in just months ago. At around 5:30 Tuesday evening, just outside the house, the 31-year-old was confronted by a man and shots were fired. According to police, he ran to the back of the house and collapsed in this banana patch. His body was discovered moments later.
When he first came to the area to live, he introduced himself to me and he told me who was his mother. He thought me for his mother. And last week he had a little problem here because my grandson, his mother didn't well, so she couldn't take the bus to go to him at school. And he went down there and he asked me, he said, sure. And he went and he bring my little grandson from school with me the last one. He can't believe that boy. I can't believe it. And I tell her, I never see him with nobody. He's going on very neat. He ain't got no wall up on him or nothing. When he's very fast, he speak and he go.
Another long-standing resident who spoke off camera says he's very disturbed at the thought of gun crime in his area.
I didn't feel pleased about what I hear. And it is something that never happened in the district, in this area. Like, I don't know what is the cause of it.
The motive is one of the things police will be looking to find out as they continue their search for the killer. Kareem Smith, CBC News.
Judgments were delivered by the Caribbean Court of Justice in a pair of unrelated death penalty cases from Barbados. The cases, Jabari Sensimania Nervais versus the Queen and Dwayne Omar Severin versus the Queen, were consolidated because both appeals challenged the murder convictions of both of the men and the constitutionality of the mandatory death sentence for murder in Barbados. The court stated that a section of the Offences Against the Person Act was unconstitutional because it provided for a mandatory sentence of death. In addition, both men had their appeals against their convictions dismissed. These are the last judgments that the Right Honourable Sir Dennis Byron will deliver as CCJ President, as he will demit office on Tuesday, July 4th. Barbadian Ronelle King has received her Queen's Young Leader Award. In a ceremony held recently at Buckingham Palace, Ms. King was presented with the award by Queen Elizabeth II in recognition for the work she is doing to help end violence against women in the Caribbean. She is one of 38 young people who have been rewarded among a cohort of 240 overall who have been chosen over the last 4 years as part of an initiative to mark the Queen's Diamond Jubilee. As the Queen's Young Leader, Ronelle has gained access to mentoring and training through the University of Cambridge's Institute of Continuing Education program. It's designed to help develop her leadership skills further and to ensure she is best placed to lead the way in the future to tackle some of the world's most pressing issues. Ronelle will also have access to a £200,000 legacy fund to apply for grants that will help elevate the work undertaken by her and the other young leaders. Class 4 brownies making the transition to secondary school have been reminded to use the lifestyles learned during primary school in their new institutions. Brownie guider at the Hinesbury Primary School, Angela Meredith, wants them to remember the promise made as she wished them good luck in their future endeavors. Ms. Meredith was speaking during a special flag-raising ceremony at Hinesbury where a number of brownies were rewarded in several disciplines. Brownies were assessed on deportment, attendance, punctuality, badge work, working with others, and discipline.
It could be a very emotional occasion because the girls were with us for the past 5 to 6 years and we have gotten attached to them, and we also miss them. We'll miss them because we have instilled or pass on life skills like working with others, leadership skills, socialization, and making them rounded individual in terms of going ahead, going forward, and being well-rounded and very confident in themselves.
Two long-standing Calypso tents have merged. The Stray Cats and Experience tents will open as one this Sunday at the Crane Hotel. Manager of Stray Cats, Jerry Roberts, made the announcement during a media briefing recently. The tents lineup includes six-time Pickety Crop semifinalist Apache, as well as the Doctor, who has made 2 trips to the semifinal stage.
We are very thankful that this year we're teaming up with Apache and his group because the Experience tent didn't come out this year, and like every year, it was always scrambling for Calypsonians, and then they just came aboard, right, and bang, 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 I got a semi-finals in the party morning.
Stray Cats has been in existence for the last 25 years, sponsored by the Crane Hotel. Owner of the hotel, Paul Doyle, says there are a few key reasons why they've stayed with the Stray Cats over the years.
The thing I think that's terrific about Stray Cats, and one of the reasons we want to support it, is it really gets into the culture. They're bringing up a lot of young people, people that wouldn't have had any other opportunities, people that Jerry brings in, gives them a shot, and it's a real community spirit, community atmosphere. And I think, to me, that's an important part of culture in Barbados, and I think you see that in Stray Cats.
Jamaica is receiving some bad press and criticism following the murder of a retired British couple. We hear more in this TVJ report.
The Independent newspaper, the Daily Mail's online and print edition, The Sun, several British newspapers headlining Jamaica for the wrong reason. On Friday, 74-year-old Halford Anderson, also known as Charlie, and his 71-year-old wife Florence Anderson, also known as Gail's, partially burnt bodies were found close to their home in Mount Pleasant, Portland. Mr. Anderson was born in Jamaica but lived in England for the past 50 years. He and his British-born wife lived in Manchester, England, which is why British television stations have also taken keen interest in the killings.
They were devoted to one another, loved by everyone who knew them, and dreamed of a retirement to the Caribbean. But the dream that began for Charlie and Gail when they married 55 years ago came to a violent and tragic end when they were found dead at their home in Jamaica.
He worked hard. He was so hard-working. If you looked at his hands, you know, they tell you the work he's put in over his life. It's sad that somebody can do that.
President of the Jamaica Association for the Settlement of Returning Residents, Percival Latouche, says the story is heart-rending for Jamaicans overseas.
In Ghana, a former policeman and his accomplice have been jailed for an armed robbery committed on a gold miner at the Mackenzie Market late last year. His sentencing came 12 days after his accomplice changed his plea to guilty and was sentenced to 4 years.
This All Year's Night 2017 gunpoint robbery at the Mackenzie Market in Linden has resulted in the conviction of 2 men well known to the police. Former policeman 38-year-old Timothy Waldron was last week found guilty, jailed for 5 years and fined $100,000. Police Public Relations Officer Jairam Ramlakan told reporters in a statement that Waldron's sentencing came after his accomplice, 29-year-old Sean Archibald, changed his plea to guilty and was sentenced to 4 years in jail and fined $75,000. This footage of the robbery you are currently viewing was shown in court, and that's when Archibald changed his plea to guilty. Waldron and Archibald were arrested and charged with robbing 31-year-old Travis Campbell of Mackenzie Linden of 3 gold chains on All Year's Night 2017 at Mackenzie Market area. Archibald had claimed that Campbell had owed him money. That's when he and Waldron pulled off the chains from Campbell's neck after hitting him to the head with the gun. Police said they fled the scene in a waiting silver-grey Toyota Allion. Police in Linden said that 2 separate identification parades were held, and Archibald and Waldron, both of North Rheinveld, Georgetown, were identified as the 2 men who carried out the robbery.
Some call it the champion's curse as Germany bows out of the 2018 World Cup. That story and more ahead on sports. But before we get there, here's a tip from Cooperators General Insurance.
This tip of the day is brought to you by Cooperators General Insurance Company Limited. Insurance the way you want it to be.
The asthma bay at the QEH is well equipped to handle a severe asthma attack. This tip is brought to you in association with the Asthma Association of Barbados.